Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sharpshooters Presents a Gentleman Discussion. My name is Adrian Cotton, and I'm here once again with my good friend Manny. Manny, how's it going, buddy?
It is going well. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. Another good day. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm good. So, right off the bat, let's get right into this gentleman's discussion because that's what we are. We are gentlemen, and we are having a discussion. I wanted to ask you about deaths in wrestling and how you feel they are handled by their respective companies.
That's a tough one to talk about, mainly because you've got current star death in wrestling, and then you've got someone that's retired and that's passed away. I feel like the stars that from yesteryear that passed away. I feel like they're handled a little bit more differently in comparison to say the most recent death of Brodie Lee, who was a current star. I think the only time that kind of happened since was like Eddie Guerrero that I remember like that. And it all goes down to what you feel is meaningful. Because for me, for the last few weeks, it was all the events and people's comments leading up to Brodie Lee's death. And so obviously it was first covered by Raw. And people didn't seem really happy with how Raw did it because they didn't give a 10-bell salute. But in my opinion, I felt like it wasn't their place to do it because he was an employee of AEW, and that was what they should have done. And the small tributes you got from the wrestlers themselves on that show from Raw felt like it meant more than them doing a 10-bell salute, because you kind of, with a 10-bell salute, you kind of just expect it to happen. And then it's almost like an emotionless kind of thing. Because, on Remembrance Day in the UK, there's a 2-minute silence that happens at 11 o'clock in November. It's one of those things where it just happens and you don't think about it, and then you carry on with the rest of your life or the rest of your day. So I sometimes feel like the 10-bell salute, yes, it's a nice sentiment, but it's almost like once that's happened, what do you do? That's not you're no longer tributing anything anymore. It's almost
it's like there's no emotion behind it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like, you may not have any connection to the person, and then it's you might not have no emotions to it.
So it's kind of like when people say, my condolences or something like that. Like, you don't know them, but you do feel a little bad because they lost somebody. So you're sad for them, but you didn't really have that connection to that person.
Yeah.
So I got you. Would you say the impact a person had on the company, would affect that type of thing?
Yeah, because just see, especially when you talk about Brodie Lee and then Pat Patterson also, when they died, no one really talked about them as a wrestler. These guys, they were all spoken about them as a person. And I think that's more important. I didn't know Brodie Lee as the man people were describing for the last couple of weeks. And
the great dad,
the great dad, the great person. And I feel that's what hurt more, is seeing all these people say how great of a person this guy was. And then these people breaking down. I feel like that meant more than for me, is this 10-bell salute. It's you can see these people actually caring that they've lost their friend, they've lost their colleague.
Yeah. I almost said yeah again, but anyway. But yeah, I see what you're saying, because it's I guess it's because they knew him, they knew the guy behind the character, and I think that's what's really more important. The guy behind the character, because they kept saying, talking about Brodie Lee, he was a great dad. He was a great friend. He shared laughs. Just the impact they had on him. I mean, the people there and the company and the people in the company and stuff. Whereas
with the situation itself, I briefly touched on the comments that were almost negative feedback WWE received from them not doing the 10 bell salutes and stuff like that on the first episode of Raw. How do you feel like in comparison the way AEW kind of did it and then how WWE kind of handled it after, so from NXT and SmackDown that week?
Honestly, I can't get mad at WWE because I mean he wasn't there at the time. It's like you said, they put up the thing with his, the year he died, and I mean the year he was born, year he died, and that's, they didn't really need to do that because he wasn't there. He was in another company, and it was fine. They respected him. They gave him something, and they didn't really need to do that. But I guess it was nice of them to at least acknowledge the death and that they were, upset by it, and that's really all they needed to do. Whereas AEW, he was there. He was in storylines. He was a active member of the roster. So it's kind of like if they ignored it, it would be wrong because he was on your team, and it's like how can you not acknowledge and how can you keep moving forward without at least doing something? Especially if he touched you the way he did, as the way people claimed he did. Because the night he died, me and my wife were watching something on Netflix, and literally after it went off, I just jumped on Instagram, just for whatever reason. And I scrolled up, somebody had something nice to say about him. I scrolled up some more, somebody else had something nice to say. I was like, what the devil's going on? And come to find out he had passed away, and everybody had something nice to say. And I feel like if he meant that much to you, you have to do something for him. You have to. And I can't be mad at WWE because they didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't on their team anymore.
Yeah, so I can't remember whose death it was prior to that. It may have been Shad Gaspar. When he died, I don't believe they did a 10 bell salute either. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But
yeah.
What they did for him was they put on videos online on their YouTube channels, on their website, of tributes to Shad, and they did the exact same for Brodie Lee. They did one video and then they did a separate one. They also released the day after SmackDown. I feel like for a company that hired him and did everything for him when he was employed there, that is more than enough. And
I agree.
I feel like people, I feel like people went into the form of like grief shaming almost of the way WWE were handling the situation. I don't feel like you can tell someone how they handle the situation. Like when they did the 10 bell salute for Pat Patterson, he was very much still an integral role and played a massive role in the company for years. So like, you have to look at that. And I can see, and I can see like when the group me and Marcus are in, and Eric, the mid-card mess, is very like, it very quickly look to race in situations like that. And I remember that being brought up with Shad. And it's difficult. It's a difficult situation because not many people kind of would remember his run, unless it played a big part in you growing up, because that's what I remember. But like how they handled it, I thought they handled it correctly, because like at that point in time, it would detract from what you're doing with the rest of the show. Almost, that's just me talking but I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I totally agree 100%. I mean, you can't take airtime away from, you can't detract from your story if the guy who passed away doesn't impact your didn't leave a big impact. It's one thing if his impact was felt like all over wrestling. It's another thing where it's just like um, he had a moment in the grand scheme of things with WWE. He had a moment with WWE. You know him from the Wyatt family, and you might remember him from the not Basham Brothers, the Bludgeon Brothers. But that was it. That's two teams. Whereas he didn't leave that big of an impact. So there's really no need to stop production for a guy that didn't leave that big of an impact as far as the company's concerned. If that makes sense, it might be sound a little insensitive, but it's the truth.
So I'm going to ask you a very difficult question now.
Ooh.
We're talking about deaths in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
What about a death in wrestling, like Owen Hart? Was WWE at the time right to carry on the show?
Based off of what I know now, I first of all, I understand the difficult position they were put in. So I can't be mad at them because there's no, as somebody once said, there's no handbook on how to handle a situation like that. So, but at the same time, learning what I know now, after watching the documentary on Owen, they probably shouldn't have, because as Martha Hart said, that now became a crime scene and they should have stopped. I don't think WWE was trying to be insensitive, but when you panic and this is something that was unexpected and you don't know what to do, but then you got to, you're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking clearly, so you can't make a rational decision like that when it immediately happens. But knowing what I know now, yeah, they should have stopped. Because like she said, it's a crime scene. Somebody just died here. We got to take time to investigate and stuff like that. Find out what actually happened. Before the scene gets tainted or whatever.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you, the direction you went with that, because it was a very strange show the moment that happened anyway. You could see it for the rest of the wrestlers throughout the night. The show very much changed. There was an atmosphere. I definitely feel like they should have cancelled the show and refunded the money, like people's money and stuff like that, because that's something just going to stick with you for a good while. And obviously there's a reason why we can't get Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame anymore, and all these other things. It's just it's left a sour taste in everyone's mouth, and I don't know. It's a hard thing to talk about.
It is, and it's like, from what I've heard, just the way it got described, how it happened, and it's tough, and tough to hear about, tough to talk about. So I can only imagine how they felt when it happened. That's why I can't be mad at them for that, because like you said, it's hard to talk about. So just imagine how it was to be there in the actual arena when it happened, and you don't know what to do.
And it almost brings it back to the current day topic of the mystery behind Brodie Lee's death. We all know it's a form of a lung obstruction kind of illness, but no one's specifying what it is. No one's specifying whether it was COVID or whether it was lung cancer or COPD or something else along those lines. For you, is it something that you want to know, or is it something, or is it a case of people should mind their own business?
I would say the latter. People should mind their own business because in the real world, we don't dig that deep. Like if I came to somebody and was like, "Yo, my grandfather died." Oh, how'd he die? He had a heart attack. That's the end of it. Nobody really. Well, how'd he get a heart attack? Because he ate too much fried chicken. Why? We don't dig that deep in the real world. So why do we need to know how
It,
deep?
I would say something along the lines of it's different for like me telling you someone's died in my family or something like that, and you telling me vice
Mm,
versa. These people are in the public eye. These guys are almost celebrities to us, whereas like I don't know, like when Whitney Houston died, everyone knew about that. You know what I mean?
mm, yeah,
Where
yeah.
yeah, it's one of kind of those things that wrestlers are almost like celebrities to us, where in reality they're just regular people.
True. Yep. Yep. And I think that's where the problem comes in at because it's like when it comes to celebrities, we have to know everything about them, everything. And part of me feels like it's not that we need to know everything. We just want to know the dirt. We want to know how bad it was. Like we're expecting bad news and we want to hear that bad news.
Yeah.
So so it's kind of like, it's to me it's like, do you really care? Or do you just want to know like what happened? Do you really are you just being nosy? Really, is what I'm saying.
So me and Marcus had an interesting discussion off air, but where where the suggestion is it could have been COVID and it
Mhm.
being covered up. Do you think if it was COVID, if and they were to announce it was COVID, that wrestling on a whole would probably get shut down?
I don't think so because it's like what are you shutting it what are you shutting it down for when people have is it are you saying like because he died from it they would shut it down?
Possibly, because like in the case here where football, they're talking about taking a break from the season now because the high rate of the high rising rate of people having COVID or testing positive for COVID or coming into contact with COVID is on the rise. They're talking about stopping football on a whole on a grand scale. Soccer for me on a grand
I got
scale,
you.
on a grand scale of like having a shutdown of it because it's actually becoming a problem where it becoming a problem to the actual players. So is it a case
So
of in terms of wrestling because you are now you put your body and trust in someone else. So like if they're not showing symptoms or if they're carrying, um, is it one of those things? I'm very much on the feel. I don't care how he died. Just let the man
mhm,
rest in peace. I don't need to know.
right.
Let his family grieve. But like
Mhm.
there it is concerning in terms of people where there is a massive pandemic going on, and if it was, why is there so much secrecy around it?
Right, because I mean, there have been people that had the COVID, I guess. So it's like, why now all of a sudden would you keep it a secret? I don't think they did that.
Yeah.
It's there's no point.
Well, my other thing was if it was COVID, his last actual match against Cody was like at the end of October. So like if it was COVID and anyone wrestled him, they would have shown signs a long time ago.
Right. Yeah, and I mean he was part of a group, so those people would have, like you said, shown signs and stuff. So I mean, he's around people the whole time, he's there. So there's I don't know. People probably just. I think people are just digging for something. I don't think it's a cover up or anything like that. I think the man just had lung problems and he succumbed to those problems. That's basically how I see it.
Yeah. So Adrian, I'm gonna change up the conversation because
Ooh.
it's gone a bit dark.
Let's liven it up a little bit.
it, So, favorite tribute show, or
I
let's
would
even we even stretch that to tribute week, because a lot of these things tend to happen where they put on a tribute show, like Raw and SmackDown will tend to do it both shows.
honestly, I think the one for Eddie Guerrero was my, I guess you say, quote unquote favorite. I think the Raw night was my favorite. It had better matches, and it had a better feel where it was like you were sad that night, but you didn't really feel bad. You know, it was still a good show, and I think Eddie would have been proud of that show. You know, it I think, yeah, Eddie Guerrero on Raw was good. SmackDown, the one on SmackDown, it kind of felt like he was really gone, and it really kind of hurt a little bit more. You know, it didn't have the same joyous feeling, I guess you'd say, to me anyway.
I think
What about you?
I think I enjoyed the SmackDown one. I think that was the one where I got Shawn, the first time I've ever seen it, and it was Shawn Michaels versus Rey Mysterio, and I think that was on the SmackDown one, and I think, yeah, that one. I think that whole week it was like that was a massive part of me. That's like Eddie Guerrero was on an incredible run at that point, and then he just miraculously died, and it set off this whole. When you look back at it now, it set off this whole train of destruction with Chris Benoit and how what he did, and because it was led to the like depression of losing his friend, and I definitely feel like the SmackDown show. I feel the whole week was a good tribute week, but yeah, that SmackDown one kind of hit home. It was like Eddie's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm gonna say AEW did a great job. I did feel like it was a little bit too soon to involve the family, but of Brodie Lee, but they did a great job doing a tribute.
Yep. Yep. I agree. The night of the where Dark Order just won everything, and um, I was okay with Brodie Lee Jr. getting involved. It was cool. Like you say, it was a good tribute. They did a good job with it. They honored his memory, and you heard from the talent. It was a good night.
Yeah.
It was a good night. All right. So real quick, I just got one last question for you, Manny. How do you feel the way wrestlers post their death are still used, in as far as storylines are concerned?
The most recent one would be MJF and -1, Brodie Lee Jr. and the stopping Marcus Stunt. That's all right because they're helping a kid transition. The kid lost his father, whereas the other stuff that I've seen, so distasteful. Like, don't do it. Like, you got the CM Punk with Paul Bearer, you got Randy Orton with Eddie talking about Eddie Guerrero to Rey Mysterio. Not needed. I think there's even another one. Paige said, I can't remember who she said it to, but it was awful. I just remember it being so.
I know which one you're talking about. That was with Charlotte Flair and her brother.
Yeah. Just doesn't need to be said.
Yeah. So, truthfully, and we can talk about it another day, but I think the only reason they do it now is because fans are so insensitive that you have to say something like that to just get some kind of reaction out of them. But I mean, we can talk about it another day, but that's the reason why I think it's like they go there, because it's an instant hit that'll, catch you off guard, and it'll shock the mess out of you when you hear it. You're just not ready for it. But real quick, man, you don't have anything to plug, do you?
I'm on this network.
Yeah. All right. Just making sure, because I've got quite a few things to plug. So I wanted to give you a fair shot at it. But real quick, I want to plug my books. AWO Big Time Players Episode 1, The Beginning of Change. AWO Big Time Players Episode 2, Continuing to Grow. They're both available at Amazon. You can pick them both up for $15.98, not a piece, but together as a set, as a whole.
I would
I'm
normally
working
have
on.
those. I would normally have those all up to hold, but they're in this
Yes.
box.
At least you know where they are, so that's a plus. Easy access. Ah, but I've started working on episode 3. So Manny, I'm gonna be reaching out to you because I got a character I need your help with, if that's okay.
It's my character, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Also, I want to plug my travel agency, emersoncotton.intellitravel.com. Swing by there if you and your family want to go on a trip or, trip anywhere. I got you. I can help you with that. I can also help you start your own business. So give me a call at 410-202-5227. And this is something I just got into, so I want to try something new. If you do need somebody motivational to speak at your school, church, or wherever, reach out to me at that same number, 410-202-5227, and let's talk. Because this year I want to not just pull myself up, but I want to pull other people up too. So that's all I got this week. Manny, I appreciate your time, and let's do this again.
Yep. And remember
All
to
right.
like the video, subscribe, and click that
Yes.
notification bell. And hit up
Bang that notification.
www.storefrontier.com/DSPN for your
There
the
you
Sharpshooters merch.
Get yourself some Sharpie merch. Yes. Anyway, for Manny, I'm Adrian Cotton. Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you next time. See you later. Bye.